Okay, the next thing that qualifies as typically British is class consciousness. George Orwell said, "Britain is the most class-ridden society in the world." He said that in 1941. And although I'm not sure this is completely correct anymore, there still is class in Britain. There has been a movement towards distancing themselves from class. Tony Blair, for instance, decided to not use class rhetoric in his politics and his discussions. But nevertheless, the truth remains that the British are fairly occupied by class, and a class system that looks like this. These are informal classifications. There is the upper class, middle, working class, and underneath here, if you are long time employed, we call it the residual class. Now, the upper class consists of 1% of Britain's population, and it consists of the gentry or the aristocracy. You have to be born into this class to be a lord by name. It's very difficult to move up to this class, and as I said, a very small part of Britain. But nevertheless, this is exactly why Britain is more class conscious and a little different than many other European nations. The fact that they do have an aristocracy and a gentry that inherit both wealth but also positions in parliament, that is quite special. Now then there's the middle class, which you can divide into upper, middle and lower middle class. And people are fairly aware of where they belong on this social ladder. There's the working class, and they distinguish between the skilled and unskilled workers. And then, as I said, if you are dependent on the state, if you're a very long-term unemployed, you are categorized as the residual class, really, instead of an underclass. Now, how do you see class in Britain? I love this TV show where Hyacinth is really constantly trying to be part of a higher class than she really is. And the British love it too, because they recognize something either in themselves or their neighbors, because everybody is quite conscious of class. But what are some marks of class? How do you see class? Well, it has a lot to do with behavior. It's the accent you have. It's formality and reserve, how you behave, what you talk about. For instance, you shouldn't talk about money, you shouldn't talk about health problems. There are certain aspects in how you behave that will reveal what class you're from. Also, what newspapers you read, what food you eat will give you away. The neighborhood you live in is of course important. That will pretty much tell everybody what class you're in. But also your friends and associates, and most importantly, your family. Especially if you're in the higher classes, your family name is important.